In my hand, I'm holding a bottle of very rare beer. Normally right up my alley, but this beer is made from that wastewater. So how did all of that and this terrible smell get into this bottle? And does it taste any good? We're gonna find out. Wastewater in bulk smells even worse than you might imagine it would. It has to go somewhere, and every city has it in abundance. As fresh water becomes more scarce, it could prove a valuable resource. One of the main treatment plants in Berlin, Germany, partnered with a tech company called Xylem to make beer out of recycled water. So I went to the facility to take a look.
We treat the wastewater of 1.3 million inhabitants. So it's about 150,000 cubic meter per day.
If that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. The facility is huge, and the amount of wastewater was pretty overwhelming. The first part of the process, the smelliest part, involves this terrible looking sludge. It's pretty old-fashioned, but still pretty effective.
We have bacteria sludge where we aerate, so we put oxygen in the water, and with this process we are able to remove 97% of all the compounds in the wastewater, and we get a very good quality to discharge the water in the surface water.
97% is pretty close, and that works for irrigation. But it's definitely not safe to drink at that point. And an increased amount of chemical waste in water has made cleaning it even trickier. Enter Xylem. They partnered with the plant and developed tech to take water across the finish line. Their goal is to help cities diversify their water sources by making recycled water usable.
We have scarcity all over the world, and even in regions like Europe or especially Germany, where you think there is an abundance of water, that we see now face heat waves, have groundwater levels sinking, and we wanted to show people in the world that we are able, that there's a technology to reuse water, that we can recycle wastewater. So wherever there are people in cities, you have a wastewater on hand, and this is a resource you can basically use and drink.
But to be able to drink it, Xylem and the water treatment plant needed specialized equipment to take care of that last 3%. The wastewater plant gets most pollutants out using their traditional biological processes, but especially as the chemical waste in water increases, they needed high-tech equipment to break down waste on a molecular level.
When we have these processes concluded with sedimented water, it's clear water, we put that clear water in the ozone reactor because we have to remove trace organics. Yeah? We use more medicine, we use a lot of chemicals we cannot remove with a biological process, and we can put that in the ozone reactor, and it breaks these synthetic compounds in small pieces, and these small pieces we can further treat biologically on filters, on activated carbon filters, and after that we are even able to reuse the water in further steps to bring it back to the drinking water process.
So one of the things that Reuse Brew is trying to address is the negative public perception around using recycled water to drink. I understand the hesitation. I'm in one of Berlin's wastewater treatment plants, and it smells like a million people just took a shit right next to me, because that's actually what happened. I'm surrounded by a million people's shit. That mental barrier is actually a bigger problem for Xylem than the science. It's hard to get over the idea that you're drinking someone else's bodily fluids, the smell really doesn't help. But again, given the abundance of wastewater, this process makes sense and it could become necessary. After all water on Earth has been used before in some capacity.
We don't consume water, It's going back in the natural cycle, and it's important to treat the water to a high standard so that we are able to reuse it. We have the indirect reuse, we have the direct reuse, and the scarcity, the water scarcity is all over the world. It's also hitting Germany, and it will be a big problem to have enough water for a large city. And so we take care to bring the water back into the nature and to have the reuse safe for the next 100 years.
Here's where the beer comes in. Given the potential importance of recycled water and the large barrier of public perception, Xylem used the water to create a beer as a fun project meant to raise public awareness. In Germany especially, beer is important to the culture, so they had to get it right.
We have really hard German beer laws, yes, the purification law, Deutsches Reinheitsgebot, but this law only asks for water, for clean water. It doesn't say that it needs to be some water from the well or some spring water. It just needs clean water, and we have really perfectly analytical, purified water in great quality, drinking quality, and we use this to provide for the Reuse Brew.
I was gonna try Reuse Brew out there, but I didn't want the smell interfering with the taste, and I wanna give this thing an honest taste test. So here we go, the last bottle of Reuse Brew. And it smells good. It's a German alt beer. It's essentially a brown ale. I'm gonna pour off a bit. Yeah, and I actually really like the nose. The nose is malty, and it smells like I would expect of an alt beer or brown ale. So here we go, Reuse Brew, bottoms up. It's a good beer. I like sort of the complexity, the carbonation, the malt balance is really nice, it's smooth. Honestly, if you were to just serve this to me in a bar as an alt beer, I wouldn't question it and I would give a nice tip. Like, this is a fine craft beer and I would have no idea of the original source. It tastes good. I'm gonna have another sip. So yeah, in terms of the beer itself, it's complex and interesting. It's malty. It strikes me as similar to other alt or brown ales I've had, and it has a smooth middle. It has a nice rounded finish, and the malt characteristics are predominant but well balanced, with a little bit of hops, a little bit of carbonation. And honestly, I like this beer and I will probably drink this whole bottle. So again, I like this beer. I'd have it in a bar. Being a brown ale is sort of apropos and was throwing me off mentally a little bit, but if I didn't know the context, I wouldn't suspect anything. I actually quite like this beer and it certainly does not taste like shit.